No, go ahead.
At 6 p.m., we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. I will ask, if you will, to please rise for the invocation to be given by Pastor Jeremy Farley, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Lord, at a time that our nation needs you more than ever before. God, tonight I want to give thanks to each person that is in this room, Lord. I want to give thanks to them for their service, and God, for the commitment that they have made for this thankless job. God, I want to give thanks for them, that you have put them in their position today. Lord, we know that it is your hand that selects kings and authorities and rulers. And today, God, we are asking that you would give them a year that is filled with your grace, your mercy, and God, your wisdom. I pray, Lord, that you would bless them, bless their homes, bless their families. And God, in the years ahead, we can look back on their time of service and, God, say our community was made better for them. Give them a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of humility. God, above all else, would you give us a spirit of godliness. May everything that happens in this room over the next year be for your glory. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First meeting of the year is always our reorganizational meeting. I'll express appreciation to Chairman Vaught and Vice Chairman Cook for your leadership during the past year. At this time, I will open up the floor for nominations for the election of chair for 2025.
I'll nominate the gentleman from the Blacklick District, Mr. Ball.
We have a nomination for Brian Vaught. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, do we have a motion to close nominations and elect Mr. Vaught by acclamation?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Terry, second by Mr. Cook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I'll abstain.
Mr. Chairman Vaught, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, I appreciate the confidence, and not just because it's Jeremy, but Pastor Farley, that's probably one of the best first meeting in January invocations I've heard in my 8 years on the board. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
You're absolutely to be commended for that. You hit all the high points, and I hope 2025 is just a great year, not only for the board, but Wythe County as a whole. All right, with that being said, I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair for 2025.
I'll make a nomination to nominate the gentleman from Fort Chisholm, Mr. Jamie Smith, for vice chair, sir.
All right, I have a nomination for Mr. Smith from Mr. Terry. Do I have a nomination or any other nominations? Right, hearing none, I have a motion to close the nomination and elect Mr. Smith as vice chair for 2025 by acclamation.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Lawson. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Morgan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Any opposed? So approved. All right. Congratulations, Mr. Smith. And move on the agenda. The next item is our meeting and holiday calendar for 2025. I know we've had some discussion in the past. Is there any additions? I'm trying to scroll down, folks. Is there any additions that we want to look at right now, or do we want to?
Mr. Chairman, did we get that was one of the holidays that we was wanting to make sure that we took care of, and it had
make a decision at the end of the year?
I think, well,
Was it Christmas?
I know we
Christmas
added
Eve?
Good Friday several years ago.
Excuse me.
And I think usually Christmas and Thanksgiving's the two big ones that we look at. I don't know what y'all's pleasure is.
I think they look good. We've added the 26th, the day after Christmas.
Yes.
And,
The 26th is a holiday, correct?
Yes.
The 24th's a half day,
Mhm.
then the 25th and 26th.
yeah, looks good to me.
And is that off the governor's calendar, Miss?
Oh, okay. I know we typically add a day around Christmas, so I saw that on there. And
What if we do a full day on Christmas Eve?
That was my thoughts, but that's me.
as long as it's doable for
Yeah.
Mr. Bear and Mr. Hankins.
I would recommend a motion then to adopt the calendar as revised.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Terry to have a second.
Oh, second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson as revised with a full day on the December 24th, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there any more discussion or questions on that motion? All right, hearing none, we'll do, or just all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Next item we have is rules of procedure for 2025. We've all received a copy of these. Are there any changes or
Excuse me.
recommendations that any board member would like to see put in place?
Mr. Chairman, do we make that like more optional to have like the sheriff and Miss Gwen and Mr. Linkus come instead of having it required every month?
I don't know that, Mr. Bear, I don't know that that's addressed in the rules and procedure. I know
Is it?
we discussed that before. And I mean, I don't know what the other board members, we've got 5 constitutional officers and somewhere only 3 of them have been placed on the agenda once a month. I mean, my personal opinion is that we just, if they want to be placed on the agenda, they can contact me or Mr. Bear or 2 board members per the rules of procedure.
I mean, I think it's nice to get an update from them, especially the treasurer, but I don't really see that needs to be monthly. I don't want it to just go away completely. But,
Well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're
Maybe
absolutely welcome.
Mhm.
But, me personally, I think sometimes it looks bad to the public when they're listed on the agenda and they either don't show up or they don't get up to speak. When they don't request to be put on there, we put them on.
exactly.
Do you want the monthly treasury report on there, or do you want to do it a quarterly?
Well, I mean, we
treasury
get
report?
we get, yeah, I mean, I think we get the monthly report in our board package.
Okay.
And if we have questions, then we can either, invite Miss Gwen or Miss Woods, because we get her finance report and, hopefully they match up. If they do, that kind of, I don't know that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I agree, but I think maybe once a quarter we bring them in just so they're here.
But I don't think every month you put them on the agenda,
I was kind of thinking bi-monthly, just to try it, and if that's too often, we could always back it down. But quarterly would work too.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we just have them.
Well, I
Do we
mean,
need a motion?
do we need a motion?
If you want to, or you can just, the chairman establishes the agenda, and just do it that way.
I mean, that was, I was, looking through it and it wasn't really in our rules and procedures how the agenda, we can change it if that's the board's pleasure, but that's.
I'm good with quarterly.
Yeah, I'm good with the quarterly.
All right, my age has kicked in. Have we approved the rules and procedures?
That's it.
No.
I asked you a question. Sorry, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the rules and procedures on 2025.
So moved.
Have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any more questions or discussion? All right.
On a different subject on the agenda there, when it talks about the order of business, and it's got the citizens' time and then the supervisors' time back to back, and then after that, it goes into the county administrator. We normally go last, don't we? On page 6.
I don't know that establishes the agenda. I think it just says that each supervisor.
There shall be a time. It's not establishing the order of the agenda, just that there shall be a time is the way I interpret that.
Okay.
And there was, I did have one other, I guess it's a procedural question. On the, I can't find it now. On the chair pro tem, do we make that appointment or for the year, or is it just in our absent?
You all have made it in the past.
Because I
But
just noticed the way it was worded.
basically, the way it's worded is if you and Mr. Smith are out or don't make it to a meeting, then the rest of the members vote on a chair pro tem for that meeting. Or if only you are here, Mr. Smith's not here, and you have to leave the meeting, then there's a chair pro tem for that they elected. That's the way I've always interpreted that. But a lot of times, a lot of the board has gone and appointed someone to be a chair pro tem, but it doesn't really
It doesn't
really
say
read like that. Yeah.
That's so okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. All right. Next item is citizens' time. Ms. Collins, I assume we didn't have anybody sign up for citizens' time. We'll move on to the payment of invoices. Each board member has received in their board package a copy of the invoices that need to be paid. I'll entertain a motion to approve those invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions, discussion, or any invoice any board member wants to pull out? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry.
Aye.
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 So approved. The next item is minutes of our previous meeting from December the 26th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So moved. Have a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Move on to old business. Mr. Barry, Mr. Hankins, do we have anything under old business?
I do not have anything for tonight.
Move on to new business. We have our appointments.
And a paper copy of those has also been handed out to you, if that makes it easier to mark them up and write them as we go through.
All right, we've got our Building Codes Appeals Board. We have one vacant position, Mr. Ashner. Do you know if he's willing to?
I have not spoke to him. I did not know if y'all had any other names that you all would like to further. This would be more than willing to talk to Mr. Absher and see if he's willing to be reappointed. This group only meets if there is an appeal of the building officials' actions. I don't think we've had but one meeting in the last 2 years with that group, but we'd be glad to reach out to Mr. Absher.
So do you want us to take action?
If you want to wait, hold it to the next meeting, be glad to do that, sir. Don't think it's critical to take action.
And if anybody else has any names, anybody, because we do have one vacancy. So we'll just leave that, excuse me, we'll just leave that on there. Next is the Chief Local Elected Officials Board, which the chair normally serves as. So I'll entertain a motion to, I guess, appoint me.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved. District 3 Governmental Cooperative, I serve currently on that. Mr. Cook serves as an alternate. I don't mind serving on that board. It's a good agency. I don't know that Mr. Cook's ever had to attend the meeting, so.
I like that board.
That's what I was getting ready to say. So, I'll entertain a motion to, if it's a pleasure of the board to appoint me as the representative, and it sounds like Mr. Cook's willing to continue to serve as alternate.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Then we have our Emergency Services Commission. I believe, well, that's supposed to be under chair.
Yeah, that's under chair,
Insurance Committee. Despite recent incidents in the world, I don't know if I want to be on the insurance committee anymore, but I'll entertain a motion to reappoint all the members of the insurance committee unless some board member wants to take my place.
We could add the Human Resources Director to there.
Do you or Mr. Hankins want to let Ms. Coble take y'all's place, or just add Ms. Coble?
Take my place.
Or
That
was quick.
Miss
Ms. Collins, I absolutely apologize. I missed your name. I'll entertain.
I think that would be it.
Just, I'll entertain a motion to reappoint all the board members with the addition of Ms. Coble and the deletion of Ms. Collins. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Morgan and a second by Mr. Terry. That was a very quick response, and I read the room on that one. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved.
I feel the same way about some committees.
We've got the JIDA. Mr. Clark has served. Is he eligible?
He is not eligible for reappointment.
Do we have anybody, or does any board member have anybody that's interested?
Does this have to come from a particular district or?
Does not have to come from a particular district. As my only comment, and it does not have to be this, we are getting low on industry representatives on there, and if we could come up with an industry
I
representative.
thought about reaching out to David Carpenter. I'm not sure if he'd be interested.
He just came off of
Has
it.
he done it?
Oh, that's right. I forgot he was on it.
He came off last year. He's been
Well,
off a year.
Do they have to sit out full term?
I do not think they do. I just think they could not serve consecutive terms. I could look at that and see.
I think he's eligible.
I think he's eligible.
You mind reaching out to him, or if any other board members has? I mean, because like Mr. Bear said, we're low on industry folks. I know Mr. Clark has been involved. He's done a good job. All right, we got the Mount Rogers Planning District Transportation Technical Committee. I'm sure Johnny Kinser wants to be reappointed, so I'll entertain a motion to reappoint Mr. Kinser.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved. Mountain Cap is now under Open Door Community, so I think their board is either going to dissolve or has dissolved.
I'll do a follow-up on that. I think they still are looking for some government appointees in order to meet the cap portion of it that required for there to be that tripartite board. I can do a follow-up on that if you'd like before we do that reappointment.
I know I talked to Miss Jones before, but off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Isn't she on the open door?
Do
board as
what?
well? Isn't she on the open door board
Well,
as
she was on Mountain Cap.
I thought she was on both.
Well,
I guess it's,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll do a follow-up on that.
all right. We've got New River Highlands, what's RC&D? I used to call it. They changed the
Resource
name.
Conservation and Development.
Entertain a motion to reappoint Mr. Aker and Mr. Hufford as alternate.
Second.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So approved. New River Valley Regional Jail Authority, I serve, and Mr. Hankins serves as the alternate, unless any other board member wants to serve. I'll entertain a motion to reappoint myself and Mr. Hankins.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second by Mr. Morgan? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
I was going to suggest that Martha has some time on her hands now, but I'm afraid I forget.
You should have spoke up. I was waiting on you to throw Martha under the bus. Next, we've got the 9th District Development Financing. Miss Pollard had served on that, but
With her not being with the chamber, it might be worth me contacting her to see before we do
if she,
anything.
yeah. All right, move on to the chair appointed. The board, or excuse me, Budget Committee has been myself, Mr. Smith, Mr. Terry. I'll reappoint those three individuals. Buildings and Ground has been Mr. Cook, Mr. Burnett, and myself. I'll reappoint those three individuals. Economic Development has been Mr. Smith, Mr. Terry, and Mr. Morgan. I'll reappoint those individuals. Fire and Rescue has been Mr. Smith, Mr. Terry, Ms. Lawson. I'll reappoint those and also appoint those as the Emergency Services Commission, which is a new appointment. I'll keep the liaisons as the same. We did not do a school board liaison last year. We've been having joint meetings. Does anybody want to be the liaison, or do y'all want to keep that vacant?
I mean, I don't mind to do it. I just can't make every meeting. But they reach out to me if they need something. I mean, it doesn't really
I
change
mean,
anything.
we're having the joint meeting.
Yeah.
We've got good communication. I mean, we're just to put a name in there, Miss Lawson. I'll appoint you as a school board liaison. Personnel Committee has been Mr. Cook, Miss Lawson, Mr. Smith. I'll reappoint those three members. We've got the Town and County Committee for Retreats, been myself and Mr. Morgan on the western end of the county. I'll reappoint those. The Town and County Committee for Wytheville has been Mr. Cook and Miss Lawson that represent the two districts in the town. I know the town council has recently appointed Miss Atkins and Miss Johnson on a Town and County Committee. So I don't know if there's going to be some conversations in the future between the two committees. Water and Wastewater Committee has been Mr. Smith, Mr. Burnett, Mr. Morgan. reappoint those, and I think that's it, Mr. Barrett.
Chairman Bob,
Call it quick.
on the rec board, I know it ain't on this list, I have a nomination.
Oh, on the commission?
Yep.
Okay. We've got an opening, right?
We do.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
lead mine.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
I nominate Todd Poole.
Todd Poole.
I'll second.
Have a nomination from Mr. Burnett for Todd Poole on the rec commission, a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Thank you, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you.
Is it now full?
Yes,
I believe so.
yes, sir. We met last night. There were 6 members there last night.
All right, moving on, we've got our FY 26 budget calendar. Mr. Bear, or Mr. Collins, one has sent out a draft budget calendar.
No, the blue is the full board meetings. The blanks are just dates that we have stuff to you, the unfilled areas. And the green would just be the budget committee only on our revenue projections. Budget presentation week is scheduled for March 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. We have been able to do that in 3 days over the past few years, and I would assume you all would like to try to do the same thing this year, so we would try to condense that to 3 days only. I don't know if y'all want to keep the 4th day on the calendar or not.
That starts at 9, right?
I was trying to condense the days, but
I mean,
We don't need Thursday.
Yeah,
I think we've condensed it. It's, you know,
I think 3 days is plenty. We've got New River Regional Water Authority on that Thursday anyway.
we can start a pool whether the state will have a budget in time. Yeah, that's a better gamble.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Well, if you all want to make a motion to adopt the calendar and with the change to March 17th through 19th, we will distribute that to you all and to our staff.
All right, entertain a motion to adopt that calendar with that adjustment.
Moved.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Morgan. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or discussion on the calendar? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Next item is the proposed procurement ordinance update. Mr. Bear, I'm not sure if you or Mr. Hankins.
What we put here is before you to review. We emailed this out to you. Have reviewed with the county attorney. As I mentioned, I have shared with our auditor, our auditor. He indicated some recommendations, including this part about including the uniform guidance for federal funding in there with it. Be glad to let Mr. Hankins talk about it here, and also, we can establish a time frame for, if we need to have a work session to go over it as well. But Mr. Hankins, I'll let you talk.
Yes, sir. The board has requested updates to the procurement ordinance to modernize it, streamline our process a little bit. So there's 2 parts to this. One is an ordinance. It's fairly short. Goes through the basics. It basically says we'll follow state procurement guidelines or federal guidelines that may come up for funds that we're going to spend. The second part is a procurement manual that can be more easily changed from time to time than an ordinance can be. Just to give the staff the guidance on how to properly procure, what guidelines to follow, what procedures that we need to implement, along with some forms to keep us rolling. So it's for your consideration. As is the nature of good code, I have substantially stolen this from another Virginia locality, so a lot of it has already been vetted and put in use. It has been customized in some areas for Wythe County, particularly in the areas of the smaller purchases. It's hard for me to say that $100,000 is a small purchase, but there are instances, particularly when you're purchasing vehicles, where we need some easing of our guidelines. So you'll see those included in there as well.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hankins? And I believe we need to set a public hearing.
Yes, we would need to establish a public hearing for this if you all are ready to advertise as such.
Much notice we gotta have.
I would request that we set the public hearing for February 11th to give us time to get it advertised twice in the newspaper.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the public hearing set for February the 11th for the procurement ordinance. Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion? All right. Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry.
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Next item on the agenda is our capital improvement plan. Mr. Hankins, I believe you've been working on that.
Yes, sir. We're required by state code to implement a capital improvement plan. This is a broad plan that includes both the capital that's included in our current budget year along with the 5-year projection of where we expect to be spending funds. Obviously, we spent a lot of our time over the last 5 years doing major capital projects. So the capital improvement plan that you have before you is a smaller plan. There are some areas that are not included. We don't have a schools portion, because that is in flux. The schools did share some capital with me, but I did not include it in this plan. This is really give us an idea of what we expect to be spending in our budget because the schools do have their own plan. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have, but this is fairly routine, unless you see something that we've left out that we've discussed. As we go through a plan, we make adjustments. If we don't get through with projects this year, they'll get moved forward into future plans.
Mr. Hankins, does the fire apparatus replacement, is that equipment or is that?
Fire apparatus is your trucks.
Is it trucks? I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, sir. Your smaller equipment, your operational equipment, your hoses and that sort of thing are typically included in your operations budget.
I just wanted to clarify, just to make sure, because I've been getting some phone calls about a fire truck, so, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion going forward? All right. Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
So approved. Got some budget items to take care of. We've got the assistant to locality budget amendment request. We've all got a copy of the memo from Mr. Barrett requesting, because we did receive more aid to localities funding from the state than we projected, and this will give an extra $2,000 to each fire department, Barron Springs, Ivanhoe, Max Meadows, and Speedville. So entertain a motion to approve the ATL budget amendment, and I guess amend and appropriate the $8,000 to the final, or to the line items as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Is there any questions or discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will just comment, we have already paid this out to the departments. We had 12,000 budgeted, but we got 14,000 for each of them. We paid them out. This is just to get our budget in balance.
All right, does that leave you any questions? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item we have is the Erie Insurance Foundation grant. We've got a memo from Miss Williams, who I think has applied for a grant and been awarded $3,000 to go toward our Department of Emergency Services. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the grant and amend the budget with the rewarded amount.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by, was that Mr. Burnett, and a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? All right, here now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. The next item we have is a state asset forfeiture transfer request. We received a memo from Chief Deputy Klein. Mr. Barry, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just request you all authorize the transfer and amend and appropriate that amount also.
All right. Entertain a motion to amend and appropriate those funds into the line item.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Aye.
So approved. Next, we have the Virginia 250 Fincastle Resolution Celebration, which is coming up very quickly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to put this on here primarily just to make note of the event that is happening this Saturday at the Willowbrook Jackson Humbarger Museum. The Virginia 250 Committee, which you all helped appoint some members to that, have been working on developing celebrations for the signing of the Fincastle resolutions, which were signed over in Austonsville. There is a monument over there that dedicates it. They have put together a video. Miss Williams sent me a link to it today, and I will share that with you, where they did a reenactment of the debate on the Fincastle resolutions. But just sharing that information for you. At the bottom, you see they do have a request for $5,000 in funding. If you'd like, we can forward that to the Budget Committee for discussion. But the primary thing was just to let you know about the event this Saturday at 10:30, and then they will be taking, from what I understand, taking their Fincastle resolutions to Roanoke, where there's a larger celebration going on.
My only question is, why are we just now getting the request for the funding when it's this close to the event?
Well, when Miss Williams and I met with Grant and was going through everything that they have done a lot of video things, and he made a request that if they could get some funding to help them with the costs that went through, and I just asked him to send us a request in that I could take to the board committee to review.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board? You want to take action on it tonight, or run it through the budget committee, or?
I'd like to see it go through the budget committee first.
I mean, honestly, I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but I'd like to see a breakdown of what the money's. I think that's just doing your due diligence.
We will request that information and put it on the budget committee.
All right, next item we have is Grandview Drive Transportation Service District Ordinance. We need to set let me scroll down here, I believe, public hearing for the Grandview Drive Revenue Sharing Project. Ms. Shelton has shared the petition and the map. So, Mr. Baird, you have a date that you'd like to see that?
This one requires 3 consecutive weeks of advertisement. I would request February 25th.
All I'll entertain a motion to set the public hearing on February the 25th for that service district ordinance.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Burnett. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Morgan. Any questions or discussion on that?
I do have a comment about this particular one. There's a plat number that will be taxed both in the Grandview tax parcel and Bentwood, and their taxes will be going up almost $2,000 a year. There's just that one, I just wanted to make a note of it.
Has that ever come up before?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, it's not. And the parcel is 58-9-30, if I'm correct. It's my understanding when Bentwood was looking at being developed for a state-maintained road, and as you're aware, the citizens are the one that determined the district. This person did not own property on Bentwood, but maybe had a family member that owned property on Bentwood that was going to access Bentwood when it became state maintained instead of using Grandview Drive, and signed the petition to be a member of the Bentwood tax district. And now that the Grandview people, citizens, have come through and said, we want to develop Grandview, he was here during the meeting. He had two requests. One, he requested would the citizens of Grandview just leave his parcel off there, and that way he would just pay his taxes towards Bentwood. And they met, and they ultimately decided that whether he lived there in the future, that was where the person would be driving in and out, and wanted that to be a tax district of Grandview. I believe he did try talking to the individuals at Bentwood, and they could request us to drop him off of the Bentwood. But if they do, then each one of them has to pick up X amount more. Miss Shelton calculated those numbers, and I don't remember them. And the residents of Bentwood did not want to sign a petition to take it off of that district. And these districts are set by the citizens, not by us. So I understand his concern.
I just wanted to make a note of it.
All right, is there any other discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So approved. Anything else under new business, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir.
All right, we got board reports, budget committee.
Budget Committee met on December 30, 2024, and took the following actions. Adopting the fire and rescue and hazardous material response charges as recommended by Deputy County Administrator Hankins.
Is that not what we just did? Oh. Right. Coming from committee doesn't require a second. Is there any other questions or discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Authorizing an adjustment to the Rural Retreat Lake Campground and Pool rates as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Director. Any reservations already confirmed will be honored at the current rate.
Again, coming from committee doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation?
I think that's a pretty steep jump. Like if you compare it to the state, like Foster Falls, for instance, they've got primitive tent sites, and theirs is, I think 25. And they also do something I would love to see us do, and maybe we can talk about it in the future, but I believe theirs are 25 for non-Virginia residents and 20 for Virginia residents. And, I'd like to keep Rural Retreat Lake Campground something that our Wythe County citizens could kind of, go spend the night, the week at a more reasonable price. I mean, it's kind of steep. I don't know how that would work procedurally, is, you know, who lives in Wythe County gets a cheaper price or who doesn't, if that would ever work, and we could look at that in the future, but really, just 32 a night for a primitive site compared to, they could go to Foster Falls for 20 a night if you're a Virginia resident. It's a $12 difference. It's kind of steep. I mean, I don't want people to not be able to go there and enjoy it.
Well, and Mr. Barrett, you know, we were told in the budget committee that, you know, we were way below local campground.
I'll let Mr. Hankins work.
Our Parks and Rec staff, Ms. Halfley and Mr. Williams, did some checking on the rates, and that's what they shared with me, is that we were among the lowest, if not the lowest. So I think we did give you the impression that we were the lowest, and I hadn't heard those rates for Foster Falls. So,
And I haven't camped at Foster Falls in probably a year, so they may have gone up as well. I just know that's just a quick Google search is what I just found, and I know that's what they were. But they may tack fees on, you know, as well, which I'm sure we don't, besides lodging tax is probably the only fee.
part of what we discussed in the budget committee is because we were among the lowest, if not the lowest in the area, we were getting campers that were creating some problems for us. You know, either their conduct, what they were bringing into the campground, the way that they were treating other campers. So what we're trying to do is to raise the price to at least make it a little more difficult for those folks to justify. And the folks at Foster Falls do have more resources when it comes to policing the problematic issues.
Okay. I'm sure it's been looked into. That was just my thought was I don't want to price it out to where our citizens can't go and enjoy it for a decently reasonable price. That's all.
Well, that was, you know, the recommendation for the budget committee is on the floor, but with it being 8 degrees outside, call me crazy, but I don't think we've got to take action on it right now. I don't see why we can't table it and Mr. Williams or Ms. Halfley share the information that they've researched. Actually, let us look at the numbers and we can address it at the next meeting if that's the pleasure of the board. I don't know that anybody's wanting to go camp primitive this weekend.
I think when they look at the prices, they need to look at the one on 717 also as well as Falls, because those are two government campgrounds, and the private campgrounds, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if private campgrounds are over there.
Yeah, but I mean, apples to oranges, the 717 and some of the national forest campgrounds, I don't know that they've made the monetary investments that the county's made into Retreat Lake.
Now, in the RV sites, I think that's pretty average. But that just $32 for a primitive tent site. I mean, I'm sure they did their background check on these other places as well.
Well, I mean, is that the consensus of the board? Let's just table that. Do we need to take any action or just
No, sir.
leave it pending?
What I'll take away from it, my understanding is you'd like to get a summary of where the rates are for competitive, whether it's Hungry Mother or Foster Falls, you know, other.
And so, I mean, some of the private campgrounds, I mean, we've got, you know, several in the area, so.
I'll have them put together a chart of the rates.
I mean, we do, the whole reason we have a campground is so people can enjoy it. So, you know, I think we need to be, unless there's really a need for a higher rate, we maybe even should be either equal or a little bit lower. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
All right.
Authorizing payment to Appalachian Power for the additional rock encounter while conducting the Henley Mountain Radio tower. This will be paid from the capital budget, emergency service capital line item.
All right. Coming from the committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Uh,
Aye. So approved.
Authorizing the county administrator to work with Apex Holdings LLC to convey donation of the horse stalls to the AAEC Horsemen's Association.
All right, that's a motion from the committee. Is there any questions or discussion on that? It's the group that originally purchased or,
Yeah, this was a group that the Appalachian Agriculture Exposition Group itself by the Horsemen's Society, and they're the ones that really had the vision in trying to move forward with the Appalachian Expo Center. But they purchased the horse stalls after the Apex Authority started operation up there and provided those to the barn. They are not in use right now. In fact, they've been set outside, which is not ideal for them. And the Jimmy Milliken at the Hitachi Energy Arena has indicated that they do not have plans of using those horse stalls, and they are willing to donate those back if the county is fine with donating those back.
all right, does that lead to any questions or discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett? Aye. So approved.
Authorizing payment to VACORP for the Apex Authority 2023 liability coverage balance due.
All right, is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
No further items from the budget committee.
So approved. All right, move on to board member time. Mr. Burnett, for the first time in 2025, we'll start with you, sir.
Very well. I just have a few items. The main item is, the stop sign on Dry Pond Road is missing. And then the other item, it ain't really an item, it's just I get a lot of phone calls on it, is the, community center in Barron Springs. They're still very much would like to see that. And that's all I had, Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Lawson?
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
All right, Mr. Cook?
I have none this time.
All right, Mr. Smith?
I have nothing at this time.
It's full moon. Mr. Morgan?
Have nothing at this time.
Mr. Terry?
I have nothing at this time, sir.
It when it's cold, I go play golf.
Wish I had a few more items.
Besides what I said earlier about, the new year and wishing everyone the best and the county the best, I just want to give a shout out, the snow that started Friday and continued the weather. Had several structure fires throughout the county, accidents, and our volunteer fire departments and our county EMS were absolutely done a heck of a job. Mr. Zook, Mr. Parnell, all the leadership of the EMS side and, the boots on the ground. I just want to say thank you for what they done. I received several compliments. Apparently there were several sleigh riding accidents this weekend, and they were very quick with their response. And so, Mr. Hankins, if you'll just express our gratitude, and Mr. Cancer, I know y'all were, the hamlet of Speedwell has been quite busy the past few months, so thank y'all. And that's all I've got. Next item on the agenda is closed session under 2.23711A1, discussion of personnel matters, county administration, and 2.23711A3, acquisition, disposition of real property. So I entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry, a second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're now in closed session. motion to come out of closed session?
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry to have a second. Second by Mr. Morgan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're now in open session and back on the record. Mr. Terry, if you'll read the certification.
Whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors that such a meeting was conducted in conformity with the Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies. And only such public business matters as was identified in the motion convened in this closed meeting were heard, discussed, and are considered by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. And I will make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Terry to have a second.
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Any questions or discussion on the certification? All right, here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. Mr. Barrett, do you have anything else to come before the board?
No, I do not, but we did not turn the recording on for that, so I'll get off video of who made the
Mr. Terry and Mr. Burnett.
Thank
you. Mr. Farthing, you have anything? All right, does anybody else have anything to come before the board?
Now, one thing, I've come into the modern society, I no longer have a home phone, so if people need to get a hold of me, it's 276-620-4827. The home phone no longer works.
I guess somebody needs, you want them to change it on the website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I told them she's getting all my calls, so I figured I'd get her off the hook tonight.
Thank you.
I've never brought that
I'm
up.
gonna get that call.
Anybody else have anything?